In this video, I'll be reading a follow-up story to a creepypasta I narrated back in 2016. I'll also be recreating that drawing to hopefully see some improvement. If you'd like to see more content on the Bloody Painter, let me know. There's another creepypasta about him I could read. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoy it and subscribe for more content from me. Bloody Painter. A file about the 2003 murder case. In order to protect the privacy of the individuals and victims in the following article, all names have been altered except the murderer. Mr. Helen Otis? I called out to the boy who sat in front of me, but he didn't reply. He was wearing a light blue patient robe. He had dark circles under his eyes, messy jet black hair, and his skin was pale as paper. He gazed straight at me, like how a predator stares at its prey. I'm a psychiatrist. My job is to interview patients. He's been here for some time now, but I've never seen him communicate with other patients. He always stayed in the corner of the room. Needless to say, he was an eccentric child. This is a judicial psychiatric hospital. The only difference between this is the way we treat patients with a criminal record, to prevent the patients from another infraction. His silence didn't help at all. Do you recognize this? I pull out a picture in front of him. It showed a set of black-rimmed glasses on the road. This was his crime scene. He stared at the picture and spoke softly. This is from my best friend. Can you tell me something about it? I asked, but he just stared at me without saying a single word. Look, since you came here, we haven't been making any progress. If you can tell me something about this, then just tell me about it, please. After I finished my plead, he heaved a sigh and said, "It's rather a long story." His story is about a very quiet teen in the class who was accused of stealing a watch which belonged to a very popular classmate. This caused him to be bullied by a group of students. He and one of those students, named Tom, became friends, but later found that his friend had framed him. They argued at the rooftop, and Tom accidentally fell to his death. This is the photo of Tom's glasses after the accident occurred. I tried to save him. I tried to pull him up, but he let go of my hand. I didn't know what he was thinking at the time. He finished his story, then looked down at his hands. He seems to be thinking about something. Recalling his past seemed to give him anxiety. I had predicted this before he said anything. The patients who were sent here, as well as their cases, are recorded in their files. Intriguing cases from high schools are very common for teens like Otis. Bygone memories of the past fade, but not the case of Tom's death. Maybe that's why Helen can't forget the past or forgive himself. What happened after that? I continued my questions. At least we're making some improvement. After Tom died, Halloween was just around the corner, and the school had a Halloween party, and everyone had to dress up. I prepared a mask one night before the event. I was tired, so I napped, and then I found myself here. In the file, it stated that he had killed 17 people that night. No one knows how he did it. They don't rule out the possibility that more than one person was involved. Do you remember what happened during the party? Any details? I asked, but he shook his head and then continued to look down at his fingers. Doctor, why am I here? He asked quietly. Because you were ill, I answered. He rose his head in response. Come on, you're only 14 years old. Your future is still very bright. I gave him a pat and a smile, hoping to cheer him up. I want to tell him now that I'm his friend, not an enemy. This is what I said to that boy. This was the first time he ever spoke more than a word. Well, at least he was talking now. We made good progress here. The atmosphere always suffocates me. Maybe because this is a hospital, not a best place for a sane person to stay for long. I get surrounded by different patients every day. I had grown accustomed to it until now. I feel something unfamiliar. I feel like I am a frail sheep amongst a pack of hungry wolves. I am pretty sure this place is slowly eating my sanity away, little by little. Something in Helen Otis's file struck with me. I decided to ask him in person in the next coming interview. We met in the same small room like the previous time. I greeted him with a smile and he responded with a few blinks. I took that as a greeting from him. I sat down at my place. I flipped open my notes on the desk and looked him in the eyes. I questioned the femininity of his name. Helen, did your parents name you this? He thought for a minute, then told me his parents had difficulty conceiving children and they were eager to have a daughter, but instead gave birth to a boy. Due to his mother's weak health and their financial situation, they couldn't have any other children, as much as they hoped so. They decided to raise their only son as a daughter. As he finished his sentence, he fell into silence. I was thinking what kind of response I should give. He opened his mouth again. Not only does his name sound feminine, his parents also brought girls' clothing for him when he was younger, raised him like a daughter instead of a son. Neighbours and children around the area did not know if he was actually a boy. When he reached the age of 6, he had to go to school. After that, the way he was raised will cause a huge concern. His parents tried changing their ways, finally treating him as a son. Maybe this is why he has some feminine characteristics. My parents are very fond of me, and I understand their difficulties, so I have not complained about them. I do not think they have any problems. His family is very dysfunctional. He grew up under his parents' twisted faith and overly high expectations, which affected his growth. He lost some basic human traits, but he didn't notice. Plus, he doesn't seem to know how to express his feelings due to the environment that he grew up in. It's hard to change the patient's opinion of their family's faith. I wanted to tell him what his parents were doing was wrong, but it wasn't the right time, so I kept my mouth shut. Although he rarely talks to other people in the hospital, he talks politely whenever he does. We chatted sometimes. We sat on the white bench in the park. We looked like best friends. We didn't always talk about things related to hospital. We talked nonsense sometimes, and it was these moments that we both felt relaxed, especially me. I really felt the tension between us loosening. In this place, patients will randomly pick fights with one another. He won't pick fights, but neither does he stop them. He always manages to avoid any form of chaos and live peacefully. That's pretty smart of him. In the year 2001, the 3rd of October, he was discharged from the hospital after receiving treatment for 7 years, and it's time for him to return back to society. He is now 21 years old. He's no longer the young boy I remembered. I was the one seeing him off. Thinking back made me feel happy for him. Don't you ever come back here, Helen. If you come back here again, we will only meet when you are sitting on the electric chair. Those were the last words I said to him as I pat his shoulder and smiled. He nodded in response. He had a good nature, if you asked me. I remember the look of him when he left. He wore a dark blue windbreaker and a pair of black pants. His hair was still the same messy jet black. Won't he try to comb his hair a little? I truly hoped that I wouldn't be seeing him in this place again. After his discharge from the hospital, he was behaving well. We sometimes talk by email or meet up at a cafe. We talked about what we were doing now. He works as a mover and a cleaner as a part-time job. His body has grown quite muscular, looking much healthier than when I first saw him. He saved a small amount of cash and rented a small old house. The environment is quiet and nice. He had bought some art tools and started to draw. He told me that he wanted to become a painter. He still didn't talk much, but I am happy that he found a goal in his life. He said he never blamed his parents for what they had done to him, but he never once visited his parents after he was discharged. After we confirmed that he wasn't any threat to society, we finished our observations on him. In the year 2003, in the month of October, there were a few missing persons cases. Judy George and Maggie Wang, both aged 24, were a few of the victims who were missing. These cases were very popular at the time, but I didn't really pay it much attention. A user posted this photo on social media. He said his CCTV recorded this picture on the 30th of the 10th, 2003 at 2:30 AM and stated that someone tried to break into my neighbour's house. The police had no clue who is responsible for these cases. They thought it was some guilty pleasure freak behind them. Note, there was no specific motive. It just seemed this was all done for some sick satisfaction, making him harder to track down. That was until the police found out the victims were all in the same class with Helen Otis before he entered the hospital, as well as the survivors from the gruesome case from a few years ago. The police decided to investigate his home. When I saw the news, I felt my heart skip a beat. I tried to contact him as well, but to no avail. I felt like something bad was going to happen. I sat in front of my TV, my mind jammed like glue. I couldn't think of anything or do anything. God, no, please, no, echoed in my mind. Helen Otis's old house is now under police investigation. On the 17th of November, the night was dead quiet. The place was silent, which made his house in the middle of a field look even more eerie. The police broke the lock on the door and opened it slowly. A rotten stench greeted the intruders from the darkness of the house. One of the policemen shone a torch through the home. Surprisingly, there wasn't a piece of furniture in the entire structure. Apparently, no one had lived there for quite some time. They moved inside quietly to check the source of the smell. Suddenly, one of the policemen felt something brush against his shoulder. When he pointed his torch up, he saw something that scarred his mind. An upside-down human with a twisted face was eyeing the police. The corpse's neck had been ripped open. The policeman freaked out and called out to the others as he scanned the rest of the house with his torch. The house was full of such corpses, like a butcher's shop. Judy George, age 24. Every single body's flesh was a drawing canvas. The writing on top of it was the process of killing the victims. One of the body's jaws had gotten ripped away brutally. All the paint on the canvas was brown. This was proven later to be the victim's blood after analysis, turning brown because of the oxidation. There was a total of 5 bodies in this house, including Judy and Maggie. The other 3 were the ones who gave witnesses about the murder case involving Helen to the policeman a few years ago. This home seemed to be more like a gruesome art gallery of victims than a butcher's. All of the bodies and canvases were facing the entrance, as if they were greeting the ones who entered this place. The police couldn't figure out the intention of the murderer, other than him making a cruel joke. I fell into despair I'd never felt before. I really hoped he was not the one who did all of this. After the news was published, neither can I eat nor sleep normally. My health was sliding downhill, my sanity escaping. Can anything be worse than this? I really want to go back in time and punch myself. Newspaper article from the 18th of November, 2003. The next day, after the news was released, I received a call from the police and they asked me about the murderer. They received Helen Otis's patient file from me. I told them everything I knew about him. The police took note that I was not well. I told them that I was terribly shaken by the discovery of Helen Otis. I told them that Helen is really a good person. He was just walking down the wrong path. I thought I had stopped him from going astray. The police found a letter at the crime scene. They asked me to stay calm. The letter was written for me. I asked to receive a copy of the letter from the police. They complied, and then they left. I stared at the letter, thinking of whether to read it or not. I was on the verge of a breakdown, but I felt something in the letter could salvage me. As I sat back in my couch, I don't know how long I was staring at the letter in my hands. Then I slowly opened it and began to read. Dear Doctor, I finally remember what happened that night, after I looked at my mask. That night, 7 years ago, the day before Halloween, I kept fidgeting on my bed, unable to sleep. All of the things that happened to me stung my mind like needles. That time, I thought to myself, I had to do something about it. Then it happened. I threw a turned-on hairdryer into a public spa. There were a lot of people present. I remember I used a simple fork to dig someone's eyes out. I remember I ripped someone's head from his neck. I attacked everyone who lived in the student dorm. I can't fully remember all the details. I just did what my mind told me to. When no one was screaming or struggling anymore, peace fell upon me. A peaceful feeling I had never felt before. I fell into a well-deserved slumber on a pile of bloody bodies. When I opened my eyes again, I saw you, Doc. You said that the reason I am here was because I am sick. Well, I must be pretty ill now, but I never felt so peaceful in my life. Maybe I am better off to be sick like this. You told me that the next time we meet is on the electric chair. What if it was the other way around? You must know that I have got my own way to meet you in person. See you soon, smiley face. When I finished his letter, my mind went completely blank. What the hell was he trying to say? His last words sent a chill down my spine. I felt like I was prey to him. I had become one of his targets to hunt down. Wait, no. Maybe when he was still in the hospital, I was already prey to him. Maybe he longed for this day to come. God knows what was going on in his head. He never showed his emotions. Even though I was his doctor, I could never truly understand what kind of person he was. I even thought of him as a friend. Hell, I even said he was like my own child. Everything we went through was just a lie? Why am I so dumb that I forgot the rules of the hospital? They won't send any sane person into that damn place. The police won't be on patrol at this time. My life is like an unstable time bomb until the day he gets arrested. I will never know what he will do. My chance of getting killed by him will stay the same. I don't know when the worst case scenario will happen to me, so I wrote it down. At least I won't die without letting others know what happened. That's what I thought. I live alone, and it's bad. I began to get paranoid about my environment. Even little things made me jump. Before any of this happened, he used to be the most harmless patient I had met. But now, he can kill me at any second he wanted to. I'm like harmless prey. This is what I get for ignoring the fact that he was a criminal, and I tried to save him myself. This is not a lost teen who walked the wrong path in his life. This is a real-life criminal. And here I am, staring at what he is really capable of. Maybe his stable behaviour was nothing but an act. The moment that I felt happy for his recovery was only for me. I don't know how to face him anymore. I don't know what was going to happen next. I truly hope that everything will be okay soon. I just heard my house's door open. This article was written in Dr. Elmer Christopher's notebook, found in his drawer. There were some old newspaper articles attached with it. He had already moved out of his house when the new house owner had found this and posted it online. Thank you for watching the video. Let me know in the comments, what did you think of it? Did I improve over this time, or did you prefer the old drawing? Also, let me know if you'd like to hear more about the Bloody Painter. There's another creepypasta for him, so I could make that if people are interested. A massive thank you, as always, to my patrons. With your support, I can keep making these videos. With all you guys chipping in, it really makes a big difference for me. For anyone else who would like to support the channel, you can check it out. There's some different tier levels with different rewards, depending what you're able to pledge. But if you can't do that, just giving the video a thumbs up and subscribing, dropping a comment, all that stuff helps as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time in the next drawing video. I'll see you then. Bye.